Honorable Sankok? Is Honorable Kiaria here? I just skipped him because I cannot see him. He's first on top of the list. Next is Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, let me start by thanking the committee led by the Iron Lady, Honorable Gladys Wanga, who is actually the Minister of Finance, and who brought a very important bill that will solve our economic problem that we are facing now as a country, not even only as a country, but there is an economic meltdown in the world courtesy of coronavirus pandemic. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Gladys Wanga and the committee did a very good job. They had public participation, which is well informed because I've gone through the report. And this is the bill that I can say is in front of this House properly, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, private-public partnership is paramount and is very important for our country, especially Kenya, not only because of what we are facing in the pandemic, but because of our Constitution 2010. Honorable Speaker, our Constitution 2010 places a very heavy burden on our government and our resources. Honorable Speaker, remember that in the previous regimes, our burden and in terms of wages was less because the 2010 Constitution, which started its operation during the Jubilee administration in 2013, gave us an extra burden of mouths that we must feed, wages that we must pay for the governors, the senators who are not there, women rep, Honorable Speaker, additional numbers of members of parliament, MCAs, CECs, Honorable Speaker, who are the CSs of county government, CSs who are not members of parliament, Honorable Speaker, CASs, Honorable Speaker. That is an extra all lot that we had to maintain in terms of offices, infrastructure, and wages for themselves, wages for their workers, and Honorable Speaker, also to fuel their vehicles, Honorable. It was an additional burden to the government. Honorable Speaker, the infrastructure projects that Jubilee government impacted, Honorable Speaker, was also another very heavy burden for the taxpayers who are already overtaxed, Honorable Speaker. The infrastructure of 7,000 new kilometers of tarmac, Honorable Speaker, rural electrification projects, Honorable Speaker, free maternity, Honorable Speaker, free primary and secondary education, Honorable Speaker, were all extra burden that we had to bear. And you know, it is not the government, it is the taxpayers, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the standard gauge railway was also a massive burden. And Honorable Speaker, so many other projects and the allocation to county government, which now stand at 18%, Honorable Speaker. All these came from the same taxpayers that were here, Honorable Speaker, that were there even in the previous regime. So we had, as a government, to be innovative. And I thank the majority leader and chairman of the finance committee, Chair Lady, Honorable, is it Wanga, is it Nyasukuta or Nyasunda? Honorable Speaker, I thank them because this is now where we have to be innovative and think of ways of taking care of this extra burden without overburdening again our taxpayers, Honorable Speaker, who have remained constant throughout this period. Honorable Speaker, one of these very important ways have been used all over the world. That is private-public partnership, where the private sector come with their money, whether they come from within or outside this country, invest in roads like this expressway, Honorable Speaker. And then they charge just the way buildings, malls, apartments are built by private sector, and they charge rent, Honorable Speaker, to return their money, Honorable Speaker. In this partnership, Honorable Speaker, the government is the owner of the land, Honorable Speaker, and the private sector pump in their money and then charge in a duration of time so that they can return their investment together with reasonable amount of profit, and then again hand over to the country, Honorable Speaker. By doing this, we will be able to achieve a lot as a country. Honorable Speaker, also in this private-public partnership, we'll be able to create more jobs, Honorable Speaker. Because a pertinent question is that how many Kenyans are employed in the government? Almost 700,000, not even a million. How many Kenyans are in the private sector, whether informal or private sector? Honorable Speaker, there are 81%. Almost 15 million Kenyans are there, Honorable Speaker, working there and earning there, Honorable Speaker. By increasing the catchment area for the private-public partnership, that means we are bringing more investors, Honorable Speaker, who will create more jobs, Honorable Speaker, and very soon you will find 90% of our workforce are actually in the private sector, because with all these investment, then we create more jobs, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will be bringing amendments in the committee of the whole House so that we can be very specific on some timelines. Timelines on which the project must start, timelines on which the project must end, Honorable Speaker, and timelines on which we know that the private investor have already been able to benefit and refund or take their investment money and some reasonable amount of profit, so that we don't have that private-public partnership being open to eternity, that somebody who have built the Nairobi Expressway will be charging Kenyans for the next 200 years, Honorable Speaker. We have to know and judge from our traffic how much time do they require, so that they can also be able to negotiate in terms of pricing, in terms of attracting more people to use those roads, so that in a duration of time, they hand over the project back to us, because the land still remain ours. And this is an idea where, because the government own a lot of land, then the Honorable Speaker, I do really support this bill.
Honorable member, what's out of order? Who is the member, please? I cannot.
Thank you.
What's out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have a lot of respect for our colleague, Honorable Sankok. But is the Honorable member in order telling us that, or rather misinforming this House by saying that the constructor of the road will be charging us for the next 100 years?
Honorable Sankok, you may want to repeat what you said and substantiate.
Honorable Speaker.
So that you don't create unnecessary panic to Kenyans.
No, Honorable Speaker, you know, when you come to the House physically, but not emotionally and psychologically, some of these things may really bypass you. But for the benefit of the Honorable Member, I just said that we want a clause in which we know we put very good timelines on how many years, for instance, that the investor must have recovered their money with reasonable amount of profit. I use the word reasonable because sometimes you may be told that their profit is 100 times the principal invested money, which then will stretch to so many years. That is what we want to avoid on this. Honorable Speaker, and lastly, as I conclude, I will also engage with the committee so that in that particular committee that will be dealing with tendering and procurement of such private-public partnership or investment, we will be able to have a representative of persons with disabilities. Because according to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, nothing about us without us. In this express road, persons with disabilities also need to access. In the investment that will be put up by the public-private partnership, we also need access by persons with disabilities, which is very paramount in terms of ramp, in terms of ease of accessing bus stations and others, Honorable Speaker. Just the way our standard gauge railway have been done, that you can walk with a wheelchair without being pushed, without being assisted, get into the train and go to wherever you are going, get out of the train without being assisted, and you can wheel yourself all through because of the ramp and because of the way such spaces are made. And I also reserve places for persons with disabilities. So, Honorable Speaker, I do really support this particular bill, and I wish it will be implemented as soon as we pass as this House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable